a smoking Irishman knocked on a couple's door. He said he was being chased by a gang. He showed them gold and begged them to let him in so he could hide. The couple, who hated the gang but were greedy for gold, agreed to let him stay and help him chase away the Jan organization who were chasing them. However, before leaving, the Jan organization warned them that the Irishman was not as harmless as he seemed. After the Jan organization left, the wife breathed a sigh of relief after seeing them off, not knowing that the man they had let stay was actually a vampire. She called her husband over and over again, but got no answer, so she went into the bedroom to check. As a result, she found the Irishman with blood all over his mouth. Her husband was lying on the floor, trying to get up but had already turned into a vampire.
Hey, baby.
The Irishman's name was Remix, a wandering musician. The assimilated couple also loved music, so the three of them formed a wandering band. One evening, they were drawn to a beautiful melody coming from a bar. There were many legends about people born with innate musical talent, the ability to create ultimate music, and the ability to summon spirits from the past and future. In ancient Ireland, they were called Fili of the Trotter tribe. They were known as the Keepers of the Fire. In West Africa, they were called griots. This power could heal people, but also attract evil forces like vampires. The story took place in 1932. Although slavery had been abolished since 1865, racism still existed strongly in the American South. The Mississippi Delta was the most densely populated cotton-growing area in the United States. It was a special cultural and geographical center for African Americans and also the birthplace of blues music. A pair of brothers had just returned to their hometown. The older brother, who wore a red hat, was named Stat, and the younger brother, who wore a green hat, was named Smoke. They were called Smokestack, and they were the owners of a music bar. A few days earlier, they had bought an abandoned lumberyard. The seller had not only asked a lot of questions, but also had a very unpleasant attitude. The two of them had taken out their guns and spoken frankly. They had a lot of money. He had better be a little more obedient. In addition, they had specifically told the owner that after paying, he should tell his damn clan subordinates to never set foot there again. This clan organization was called the Cool Groups Clan, a notorious white supremacist group in American history. The brothers planned to renovate the old lumberyard into a blues bar that served black people only. They had also planned to invite their cousin Sami to the bar as a singer. Sami's life was simple. During the day, he picked cotton with his mother in the fields. Occasionally, he went to church with his father, priest. However, what Sami really loved was playing the guitar and singing. His father was strongly against this. He believed that only drunkards would listen to his son. Moreover, the locals had rumored that his voice was so beautiful it could attract evil spirits. Sami paid no attention to those rumors. He immediately jumped into his cousin's car, full of admiration. He had heard that in Chicago, black people could go anywhere freely. Smoke told his cousin that it was an illusion. Chicago was just another Mississippi. It was a place where plantations were turned into high-rise buildings. That was why they chose to return home. After all, they had to face the bad guys, so it was better to choose a familiar place. In order to open the bar in time for the night, the Smokestack brothers decided to do it on their own. Smoke drove his truck into town. On the way, he met a girl on the side of the road and asked her to help him watch the truck. He told her to honk the horn if she saw anyone coming. Smoke paid her 20 cents for every minute she stood guard. The girl happily got in the truck. Then Smoke went into a store run by an Asian owner. As soon as he entered, he ordered 100 portions of fish. The owner was stunned and was about to ask if he had won the lottery in Chicago when he heard a car horn outside. Smoke immediately pulled out his gun and shot the thief in the butt. Looking closely, the thief was an old acquaintance named Terry. The girl said that Terry knew this was Smoke's car, but still tried to steal things. Terry smiled and made peace. He thought the girl was fooling him. Didn't Smoke and his brother work for Al Capone in Chicago? Al Capone was a notorious mafia boss in Chicago from 1925 to 1931. Terry's words also partly explain the origin of the brothers' initial capital. Smoke didn't say much. He fired another shot at Terry's accomplice to show his ruthlessness. This action let everyone know that the Smokestack couple was not easy to bully. Thanks to that, they avoided trouble in business. However, Smoke still did not mistreat his compatriots. He gave the Asian boss some money to find someone to treat Terry. He also hired his wife to make a sign for the bar. Next, Smoke bought a bouquet of flowers at the store to visit his deceased son and his ex-lover Annie. Annie made a living selling herbs for hoodoo rituals, a form of folk magic believed in by African Americans. Annie did not like the dirty money that Smoke earned in Chicago, so she did not want to accept his help. However, the two were still deeply in love. On Smoke's side, he did not believe in the supernatural, but only believed in money and power. This time, he came to invite Annie to sing at his new bar. At the same time, on Stag's side, Sami had a question that he had kept in his heart for a long time, and now he had the opportunity to ask his cousin. He wanted to know if the two of them had really killed their biological father. Stag saw that Sami had grown up, so he told the truth. That year, his father had beaten him unconscious. When he woke up, Smoke had dug the ground and buried their father halfway. Although it sounded cruel, from then on, Stag was able to escape his father's brutal beatings. As they walked and talked, they found a street performer named Delta Slim. This man played the blues very well. Stag wanted to invite him to the bar to perform. Stag offered to pay him $20 for a performance one night. However, Delta Slim refused. He said, "Tonight I have to go to Metziner's. Although I don't make $20 there, the income is stable. It has been like that for more than 10 years. Who knows how long your bar will last?" Stag knew he would not be easy to convince, but Stag had prepared earlier. Delta Slim was a lifelong alcoholic, and Stag brought Island Ale shipped from the north side of Chicago. Delta Slim had only drunk corn liquor all his life, so he could not resist the aroma of malt. Stag took advantage of the opportunity. "I have 500 more bottles of this beer. I will pay you $40 a night, and the beer will always be fully supplied." Delta Slim couldn't resist the temptation and immediately agreed. At this moment, Stag noticed a white woman staring at him, and then she approached him. The woman's name was Mary, and she had been in a relationship with Stag. He had abandoned her before. Mary grew up in a black community. Her mother had also taken care of the Smokestag brothers. Therefore, Mary resented Stag's indifference. After pushing Mary away, Stag led Delta Slim away. On the way, they passed a group of prisoners doing hard labor, one of whom waved to Stag. Delta Slim couldn't help but tell the old story between him and his best friend Rice. The two had made a living in the Mississippi Delta, but were then arrested for vagrancy. The police discovered that they could play music, so they took them both to a white man's mansion to perform. From this job, they received a large tip. Rice planned to use the money to open a small church, but news of the money soon reached the police. They called in the Klan to arrest Rice and search him. They falsely accused Rice of killing a white man, robbing him of his money, and raping his wife. The money was taken, and Rice was castrated and hanged on the train platform. After listening, the two sat in silence, their hearts heavy with sadness. Not long after, Stag stopped the car at a plantation and called a man named Conrad. The name was also unusual. Conrad means cornbread, a popular dish in African-American cuisine that originated during slavery. Stag wanted to hire Conrad as a bouncer for the bar he was about to open. The preparations were completed, and Smoke and his older brother finally opened the bar on the scheduled night. The bar quickly attracted a large crowd of blacks who had nowhere else to go. But blacks were not like whites. They didn't have much money. Some customers even paid with wooden coins, a replacement currency issued by local governments and businesses during the Great Depression. They were worth 5 cents, but had no real value. Smoke was not pleased. They had not opened the bar to raise money. But Stag and Annie agreed that this was not Chicago. The rotten wood was the result of the hard work of blacks who worked in the fields all year round. "If we want to have a long-term business," Stag said, "we have to make them feel like this bar is for them." Mary was the only white person in the crowd. Her maternal grandfather was mixed race. Her mother, who had recently died, had been the midwife who delivered the Smokestag twins. Now the two had enough money to buy a large lumberyard, but they couldn't even send a single flower to Mary's mother's funeral. Mary felt insulted, but she didn't know that Stag had his own troubles. If the white people found out that Mary was still hanging out with them, she would be killed. That's why Stag had the heart to break up with her, find Mary a rich white husband, and buy her a farm. Unexpectedly, Mary remained faithful, waiting for Stag to return. At this time, Delta Slim had just finished his performance, and it was Sami's turn to step onto the stage. As mentioned before, there are people who are born with innate talent. Sami was one of them. His voice could penetrate the wall between life and death, connecting the past and the future. So tonight's concert not only resounded with traditional black music, but also had the breath of rock, rap, and even oriental elements like opera. The musical souls from the past and present converged at one point, pushing the party to a climax. However, no one should forget, Sami's music can heal, but it will also attract evil. When Conrad discovered Remix and two other white people approaching the bar, he immediately became alert and informed the twins. Anyone who has seen a vampire movie would know vampires cannot enter any any room without being invited. Although the twins did not know that the other three were vampires, their bar did not accept white customers, so the twins refused to let them in. But Remix did not give up easily. He and the assimilated couple, Bert and his wife, waited outside. The bar was very crowded tonight. Although most of the customers used wood coins, the numbers still allowed the brothers to earn a considerable amount of money. However, if this continued, in less than 2 months, their savings would be gone. Mary, after hearing about the financial situation, volunteered to talk to the 3 white men. She thought she could earn some extra money. Every penny was worth it. The Smokestag Brothers bar sold both island ale and Italian wine, which meant they were stealing customers from both the working class and the elite. Sooner or later, the local black and white forces would react. At that time, they would need every penny they could get, regardless of whether it was from whites or blacks. Finally, Stag was persuaded by Mary and agreed to let her talk. However, just in case, he gave Mary a small gun for self-defense. Mary quickly realized that Remix was unusual. She immediately pulled out the hidden gun. However, in front of a vampire, humans were really weak. On the other hand, Sami became more determined to pursue his musical dream after the successful performance. After hearing about it, Smoke advised him to go to Mount Bayou to try his hand. It was one of the first black municipalities in America. Everything was owned by blacks. In fact, the twins had also come to Mount Bayou to start a business last year. But because their father had a bad reputation, the town did not welcome them. Smoke advised Sami to live with nice black people. Let him and the others handle the dirty things. However, Sami did not want to go to Mount Bayou. He wanted to go to Chicago to start a business. That was where his dream began. No one in the bar noticed Mary's abnormality after she returned. Bert also easily let her in without any suspicion. Afterwards, Bert left the bar to go to the bathroom, and Mary gave the gold Remix gave her to Stag. She deliberately seduced him. Stag could not resist the provocation and followed Mary into the warehouse. Meanwhile, Smoke discovered a gambler using a razor to injure his customer. He led his men to beat him up, then told Sami to go find Stag. Unlucky Sami opened the warehouse door and accidentally saw an 18+ scene that was not for children. He was embarrassed and ran to report to his cousin. Smoke did not care who Stag was having fun with. Without saying much, he kicked the warehouse door open and rushed in. As a result, he caught Mary biting Stag's neck. Smoke immediately calmed down, pulled out a gun, and shot Mary into a sieve. But just a few seconds later, she stood up and laughed loudly and declared that this night she would kill everyone. Mary then ran out of the bar and disappeared into the night. Smoke ignored Mary and quickly covered Stag's neck wound, which was bleeding profusely. However, Stag slowly stopped breathing. Delta Slim was forced to chase the bar's customers out. Annie was the first to react. She said, "Those who are shot and don't die are no longer human." She suggested that Stag's body be taken out immediately to keep the survivors inside safe, but Smoke refused to take his brother's body out of the bar. Grace, the Asian boss's wife, saw that the situation was serious and wanted to go home quickly to take care of her daughter. She urged her husband to get the car. Unexpectedly, when Grace's husband had just gone out, Conrad, who was hired as a security guard, returned after going to the bathroom. He wanted to go in but was stopped by Annie. Annie noticed something strange. Since when has Conrad been so polite that he had to ask permission before entering? Conrad deliberately stalled for time. He did not enter the bar, nor did he explain why he asked for permission. Even Smoke began to notice something unusual about him. Seeing this, Conrad gave in and said, "If you don't want me in, then fine. Pay me for today's wages anyway." Although he was injured, Conrad got up very quickly. Annie immediately pulled Smoke inside and closed the door. At this moment, a knock came from the warehouse. Stag, who seemed to be dead, suddenly woke up and begged Smoke to open the door. Smoke could not bear to let his tall brother suffer, so he went to find Annie to get key. At that moment, Stag broke the door and rushed out. Annie immediately threw the garlic water at him. Stag's skin was immediately burned, emitting white smoke. He screamed in pain and ran out of the bar. Annie then confirmed that Stag and the others had been turned into vampires. Grace realized that her husband was still outside and wanted to run out to find him. However, Annie and the others stopped her. They believed that Grace's husband was smart and would definitely find a way to protect himself. The most important thing now was to hold out inside the bar until dawn. Annie emphasized they need to prepare more garlic, wood, silver, and holy water. She also recounted what she had heard about vampires. Once a living person is bitten to death by a vampire, they will be transformed, becoming a puppet under the control of their creator. The soul of the bitten person will be trapped in the body. The only thing they can do to free the soul is to completely destroy the occupied body. Sami felt ashamed after hearing this. His father had clearly warned him that his singing would attract demons, but Smoke did not blame him. He only said that tonight he must find Remix and avenge Stag. At this time, a female singer they invited to help the bar appeared. She accidentally saw a bitten body lying behind the bar counter. Smoke and Sami hurriedly carried the body out, wanting to get rid of it before he woke up. Unexpectedly, from afar, a vampire's singing suddenly rang out. Apparently, Remix had turned all the people leaving the bar into his kind. Those vampires were gathering outside, singing Irish songs and waiting for tonight's blood feast. Annie was worried that there were still people inside the bar who had been assimilated. She suggested that everyone eat a clove of garlic to prove it. The female singer objected because she hated the smell of garlic. Smoke didn't say much. He pulled out a gun and threatened, "If you don't eat garlic, you'll get shot." The female singer was scared and closed her eyes to swallow. It was Delta Slim's turn to eat garlic. At this time, he suddenly showed unusual signs, but his skin was not burned at all. Delta Slim explained, "I drank too much beer, just a little high." As soon as he finished speaking, there was another knock on the door. It turned out to be a customer who had just returned to the bar after using the restroom. Before Smoke could open the door, Conrad suddenly attacked from behind, tearing the customer to pieces on the spot. Immediately after, Grace's husband returned from the parking lot, calling his wife Grace to get in the car and leave. The strange thing was that he completely ignored Conrad, tearing the person next to him to pieces. Grace immediately realized that her husband had also turned into a vampire. Sure enough, the culprit Remix appeared, standing behind Conrad. He stepped forward, smiled, and declared, "It's time for you to surrender. This time, society has abandoned you. The white people won't let you build your homeland, won't let you unite your people. Why don't you join the vampire family, blend together in immortality?" Remix has the ability to read the memories of those who have been transformed. He told Grace, "If you don't let them in, he will come to your house and bite your lovely little daughter to death." After that, he didn't force anyone to invite them into the bar anymore, but instead made a condition. If they don't want to invite vampires in, they have to hand Sami over to him. Because Sami's innate musical ability could awaken sleeping souls, Remix longed to have him. He was also a musician and admired Sami very much. Smoke, after losing his brother, absolutely refused to let Sami go. Remix lost his patience and asked Smoke coldly, "How long do you think you can protect them? This place isn't as safe as you think." He revealed the person who had sold them the lumberyard was actually the leader of the clan. Bert, one of the assimilated people, was his nephew. No matter how much money the Smokestag brothers had, how many guns they had, if the clan wanted it, they would take it all. Remix said that he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. At that time, Stag, who had been turned into a vampire, also approached. He confirmed that Remix's words were true. He can see the memories in Bert's wife. The clan deliberately sold the lumberyard to lure the black people to gather, then attacked and wiped them out. Stag continued to persuade Smoke. No matter how they avoid it, the end result is death. Why not accept being a vampire and enter the immortal life? But Smoke remained steadfast, not being charmed. However, Grace could not bear the pressure when Remix threatened to kill her daughter. She did not want to hide anymore. She bit Smoke's hand and shouted, "If you have the courage, come in." That sentence was the official invitation. Immediately, all the vampires were granted access to the bar. Everyone in the bar had no choice but to take up arms and confront them. A bloody massacre broke out. Grace was burned to ashes in the first moment. In the chaos of the fight, Annie realized an important weakness. If Remix is injured, all those he has transformed will feel the pain. At that moment, Stag rushed to knock Annie down. Smoke, who was at a disadvantage, was supported by the female singer, thus escaping Remix. After witnessing Annie's request, he immediately drew his gun and prepared to counterattack. However, Annie, while seriously injured, left only one final request: "Kill me before I'm completely transformed." The vampires did not expect Annie to be so determined and immediately stopped the attack. They were confused by her sacrifice. Meanwhile, Delta Slim shouted to the dazed Smoke and told him to take Sami away immediately. He rushed out himself to hold back the vampires to protect Sami's escape route. Just a few seconds later, Delta Slim was torn apart by countless vampires. On the other side, Remix blocked Sami, who was trying to run away. Smoke immediately rushed over, trying to hold him back. When the situation was critical, the female singer picked up a wooden stake and stabbed Remix hard in the back. However, the stab missed his heart, saving him from dying. Immediately after, she was bitten by Remix and transformed immediately. Smoke took advantage of Remix's slight injury to shoot him in the chest, then shouted for Sami to run quickly towards the rising sun. Sami jumped out the back door, limping towards the east. However, Remix quickly chased after him. Smoke wanted to chase after to save his brother, but was blocked by the vampires. In the midst of the fierce battle, Remix launched a powerful attack, causing Sami to be thrown into a small lake. He jumped after Sami, grabbed Sami's neck, and prepared to bite him. In a moment of despair, Sami suddenly remembered the prayer his father had taught him. He began to recite the prayer aloud, each word echoing in the middle of the night. Immediately, Sami grabbed the guitar and slammed it into Remix. This was no ordinary guitar. It was the guitar that Stag had told him about, the father of the Delta blues, called Track the Pattern. Stag had won it in a poker game and then given it to Sami when he was a child. He had never expected that today it would save his life. Remix was extremely angry. At that moment, Smoke finally defeated Stag, who had turned into a vampire, and used a wooden stake to stab Remix through the heart. At that moment, all the vampires screamed in pain. The sun appeared on the horizon. The dawn was everywhere. All the vampires turned to ashes under the light, one by one disappearing, as if they had never existed. In the last moment, Remix felt the warmth of the sun again. He smiled, and then burst into a huge flame, completely disappearing. Although the dark enemy was destroyed, the threat from the clan was not over yet. Smoke brought Sami and the broken guitar back. He alone carried the weapon and rushed straight into the clan's lair, determined to end it all. He almost destroyed the entire gang by himself, and finally personally dealt with the leader, the one who sold the lumberyard. Severely wounded, Smoke fell. In a coma, he saw Annie and his son waiting for him to reunite. In this bloody disaster, only one person survived, Sami. He trudged into the church and met his father again. His father advised him, put down that guitar and start a new life. But Sami could not leave music. After that, he went to Chicago alone, pursuing his childhood dream. Above is the entire content of the film. Thank you everyone for your interest and attention. Goodbye, and see you again.